It's been a wonderful day yesterday, and it's going to be another great day today. So thank you very much for gracing the occasion once again. And I'd like to just take the opportunity of thanking our sponsors, Biosted, Biosys, for sponsoring this program. We also have our kit partner to recognize Acadian, and our tea coffee break sponsors, PI Industries, Ramsides, and IPL and microalgae. I would like to particularly also thank all our who have placed their exhibition stalls over here. I'm sure you're finding it nice. Grateful to Sun Chemicals Spain to come all the way from Spain and have a exhibition over here. Cabby India, Pita India, Prabhat Fertilizers, Biosys, Tea Stains, C6 Energy, Coromandel, Rovensa next. ICR Nabiar could not come for some reason, but nevertheless, we are grateful for their support. Bharat Certis, Biosted again, PJ Margo, Peptech Biosciences, Bioprime, Dayal Group, and GeoLife. So thank you all. And I'll also like to thank, we have the president of the Borlaug Farmers Association for South Asia, Dr. Mr. PPS Pangli. Sir, thank you very much for gracing the occasion. We also have Balvinder Maliji, who's also come from Punjab, very active with the Punjab Agriculture University. And I'll also like to thank our media partners, Krishi Jagaran and Krishik Jagat, in this regard. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to begin with the first session of the day, which is primarily woman leadership in biological agri-inputs. We are awaiting Dr. Azal Sobiam to join us later on. Dr. Renuka Kanitkar, who due to some personal exigencies in her family or for personal reasons could not come across, but she has left a message which I'll ask the chair of the session to come across. So, ladies and gentlemen, may I all like to introduce you to the chairperson and also the vice chairperson of BASAI, Madam Sandeepa Kanitkar. Ma'am, if you could just come over on the dais, please. I would also like to have Amrita, Kumar, and Aiman Khorakiwala, ma'am, to please join us on the stage. Madam Sandeepa Kanitkar is the founder, chairperson, and managing director of Biosys, the microbial company. And she had started from a first patent for producing liquid fertilizers, which won the United Nations WIPO Gold Medal Award for improving the efficiency of fertilizers and pesticides using microbes. A serial entrepreneur and also the vice chairperson of BASAI. Sandeepa believes in the power of compassionate capitalism for improving the farmer's income, the way our food is grown, and reaching the goodness to the consumers, as she believes. We are what we eat, is what she says. So welcome, ma'am, in this regard. Ma'am, before we start the session, if you permit, madam has a great technology on solving or resolving the issue of stubble burning in the country. And we have published, and we are in the process of publishing a series of books on behalf of our members to disseminate information on their technologies available. So, ma'am, if you could release the books on stubble burning, we would be really very grateful. Thank you very much, ladies. And ma'am, the stage is yours.
So thank you, Vipinji. Good morning to all and namaskar. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you once again to the second day of the BASAI event. I see quite a few ladies over here, so more so for the reason to have the panel discussion on women in agriculture. So these days, from farmers to scientists, from founders of companies to those in government who are influencing policy these days, from pilots to doctors, lawyers, there are examples of dynamic women everywhere. So we see the Nari Shakti almost everywhere in our day-to-day life, and the recent example being the Nari Shakti on the Republic Day on 26th of January 2024. So we begin this panel discussion with an introduction on the status of women in agriculture. I'll just have a brief introduction on the same. Then these two dynamic young ladies on the dais will join me on the panel discussion for how women have contributed in agriculture. Then the floor would definitely be open for some interactive session. We would definitely like some questions from you. We would do our best to answer those. And most of us know that agriculture sector right now employs more than 80% of economically active women in India, and 32% as agriculture in labor force, and the rest being as self-employed farmers. But then only 13% of the women farmers, they own land. So that is in fact has to grow to a great extent. And I believe that the coming decades will help us have more women in agriculture in an authoritative kind of sense. We see that the men are migrating to cities, and that is why most of the women are growing our food. So we see that the food which we eat, almost 60 to 80% is cultivated by women. So this is going to be an important aspect for the companies who really have to influence the minds of women in order to get their inputs across to the farmers. So why is it important for a country like India, which really I'm proud of? We gave equal voting rights to women in 1947, when we fought for independence and we got it. So how women's empowerment can help India? That is going to be an important aspect. So women's economic empowerment could reduce poverty, not for everyone. In fact, more of the government policy making has to happen with a woman-centric kind of approach, which is going to be important if India has to have good participation of women in agriculture, also in the policy, because most of the government policies are influencing agriculture to a great extent. So it is essential to keep women at the center of the policy, which right now may not be happening to the extent we want. So this is going to be an important aspect wherein we would like to have some views of the expert panels in this case. In addition, in fact, the regenerative agriculture, which right now is going to be a very focus. Women by nature, they are more of nurture. It is in their DNA, nurturing for their family, then nurturing for their children, nurturing for the soil. It comes naturally to them. So it is going to be more important for a kind of woman to influence this kind of regenerative or sustainable agriculture. And then that is going to be an important aspect which we will be considering here. Because these days food safety is going to be very, very important. We see many instances whereby drastic decisions or drastic opinions are, we see those wherein we believe on one hand equally we have to stop totally chemicals, we have to stop pesticides, but all of us know that the food security, safety, sufficiency and affordability, these four things are going to be important if at all we have to go get ahead. So let me in fact take this opportunity to thank the male colleagues over here, because without their support and encouragement, empowered to have this subject on the panel. All of us know the current deterioration of soil health, then water scarcity, food safety, as I mentioned earlier, pesticide residues, which are going to play an important role. But in spite of this, India is progressing to a great extent. If you see the food exports which are happening, they are growing day by day, almost 36 billion, and the Prime Minister is envisioning a plan to reach around 100 billion. So we really have to play an important role wherein how do we create such kind of residue-free food. That is going to be very, very important. Now we have the two dynamic ladies over here right now. They are trying to work hard to address some of these challenges. We had two more ladies who are entrepreneurs. They could not join due to some personal exigencies. So I shall in fact introduce them one by one. On my extreme left is Miss Amrita Kumar. She is the Executive Director, Corporate and Second Generation Family Business Member in Dayal Group. And prior to her role at Dayal, she has been working in several industries in the aspect of food, agri-tech, finance domain. She's an economic graduate from Lady Shri Ram College for Women's Delhi University, and holds an MBA from London Business School. And she also told me that she also was educated at Berkeley. So that is a great aspect. We have intelligent minds in agriculture which can contribute to what agriculture needs in the next 10, 20 years, because everyone is knowing that agriculture cannot wait. We have to have developments to the extent we require, because if it is right now 4%, we need more growth in agriculture. So for that we require intelligent minds like you, Amrita, contributing. On my left is Miss Aiman Khorakiwala. She's the CEO and whole-time director of Ingene Organics Private Limited. She's also a director at Biostat and director at Akbar Ali's Men. So Aiman is a dynamic and result-oriented CEO with over 15 years of experience in agrochemical industry. And after completing her degree in genetics from United States, Aiman began her career working in her family and agri-input business. She helped establish the company's seeds division, which was then known as the HiQ Seeds, in 2004. So currently, Aiman is the CEO and whole-time director of Ingene, which is a part of the privately owned Biostat Group. She distributes the crop protection chemicals and biostimulant. The company is committed to giving sustainable growth solutions to Indian farmers, focusing on seaweed, which are enriched with biostimulants, seaweed enriched biostimulants under the umbrella brand of Nanozyme. Uh, Aiman, in fact, she has accumulated over a network of more than 1,600 distributors, 5,000 retailers, and she's working with around 60 products. So, with value added products being introduced year after year, Ingene Organics has a 410 people strong field force, which is committed to helping Indian farmers make the good choices on their fields, practice sustainable farming, and boost productivity. So, thanks, ladies, for your consent to participate in this women discussion. So, we begin with you, Amrita. In fact, this is going to be a kind of a difficult way to answer. So, I'll just look in the front and just you have to answer it. So I would like each of them to put out their journey in brief. What inspired you, in fact, even after working in economics, to join and come into agriculture, which is considered very easy by people who are not in agriculture, and they feel that agriculture is a very simple thing. It can be improved by so many things. Everybody seems to have an opinion on agriculture, but once you dive into it, you feel that okay, you have to do many other things. So what in fact propelled you to work in agriculture and join the Dayal group?
Thank you, ma'am. I think the fact that I grew up in a family that was always talking about agriculture day in and day out sort of was the beginning of my journey in agriculture. So Dayal Group, a little bit about the history of Dayal. The group started in 1979, and we were the pioneers in manufacturing zinc sulfate monohydrate in a commercially cost-effective manner. And we started with the extension strategy to enable farmers in Uttar Pradesh to adopt zinc for the cultivation of paddy. And over the course of the next 40-45 years, we've expanded into all sorts of micronutrients. We have an entire range of biostimulants, biofertilizers, biopesticides. We also do improved seeds, both grains and vegetables. And we have an extensive portfolio of animal feed as well. So cattle, poultry, fish, and we've recently ventured into pet care also. We also have a IT solutions arm that looks at creating digital solutions for the agricultural value chain. So what was started in 1979, and with me coming into the picture in the 90s, I was always seeing this growing up. So even before I went for my undergrad in economics, I knew that this is what I wanted to come back to. So agriculture was never agriculture, it was a business for me. And so my entire professional journey was panned out in my mind based on that. I chose economics because I wanted to get into the business side of things. I chose MBA because I wanted to get into the business side of things in agriculture. What was also very important was that growing up, my father is also here, Mr. Kumar. I've seen that how his mission to bring a smile on every farmer's face was something that was very closely linked to the business ethos at Dayal Group. And that was something that resonated with me from day one. So while it was a business that I wanted to get into, it was the value that we were adding by doing business that excited me. Being in an entrepreneurial family also makes me want to be an entrepreneur and not really work for anyone else. Being able to add value in an entrepreneurial way was a lot more exciting. So that's how I ended up from being in finance and economics to finally being a agricultural entrepreneur.
That's great. And Aiman, what about you? Can you add to that? And after your education in genetics and launching HiQ seeds, what do you feel that right now India needs, and how can fresh minds bring a breath of fresh air into agriculture and innovation? Because we see innovation not to the extent which happens in the other fields. So, what do you feel should be done, and what about your journey to date?
Yeah, thank you. So I graduated in 2004, and at that point, I had studied genetics, and I had done a few internships in college with professors who were working on the genes of the maize crop. So I got some exposure into American maize genetics. And at the same time, my father had just started Biostat the same year that I graduated. And I called him up and I said, you know what, should I stay back in America and get a job here, or should I come back and be part of this journey that you have started? So he said, just come back and we'll see what you can do. So that is how it started. I came back and I jumped into the business. We had just signed a joint venture with a hybrid seed R&D company. So it was kind of up my alley because I had studied genetics. And that is how the journey started. And that is how I got introduced to Indian agriculture. And I used to travel and meet farmers and meet the distributors, understand the business better. And you asked, what is the second question that you asked?
The innovation right now.
Yeah. I think India has a long way to go in terms of seed innovation. Yesterday, we had a doctor who spoke about genetically modified seeds and all the apprehensions that our government has. It's been very easily adopted in other countries, in America and Europe. But in India, it's taking its time to kind of accept GM seeds. So I think that, yes, a lot of innovation and technology needs to be adopted. I really think the tech companies that are coming in into the agri space to enable farmers to buy products online, like Dehat and AgroStar and all these companies that are coming in, they're going to make the farmers more technologically aware. And there's a lot of funding in this space as well. So I think, yeah, India has a long way to go in terms of adopting technology.
So, how do you feel, in fact, coming back to the aspect of women participation? I was, in fact, concentrating more on the women farmers, or farmerettes as they are called. In fact, women farmers, they have a name. In fact, I Googled it and I saw it, but it is not my kind of thing. So, I just was concentrating on the farmers, in fact, how women farmers. So the same aspect happens in the entrepreneurial space, wherein I often hear about entrepreneurs, not getting the funding to that extent and the confidence which is being shown. We see many examples. In fact, Dr. Dima and Renuka is not here, and Enzil is not here. They have been able to raise substantial amount of money with respect to when it comes to funding technology, because funding usually happens in new space, and if you have to bring some new products into the system. So how do you feel the women participation with respect to farmers and with respect to the agri-input industry as a whole? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that whether it's women as farmers or women in any kind of industry in the job space, women are, as you said earlier, that they're the nurturers, right? At the time when men are enhancing their careers in their 20s and 30s, that is the peak time that women are having children. So it is an indirect clash, actually. And when they have children, they have to spend the time to take care of them, nurture them. And this is the time that simultaneously the men are advancing in their careers. So this is the time when a lot of women have to stop working, and then it's very hard for them to get back on the bandwagon once they're ready for it. So women working while nurturing is very hard, unless their counterparts, their husbands, are agreeing to help them at home, help them with childbearing and child rearing, actually. women in the workspace is actually just exploitation if they have to do both. So I think it's not only women who have to advance themselves and be supported in that. It is the men in their lives also who have to kind of step up and divide responsibilities at home. So until that happens, I feel women are going to always be pulled behind in any space. It doesn't matter whether it's agri or any other industry.
I think that I saw a beautiful video of Dr. Indra Nui on.
Yeah.
In fact, she has the same things to say with respect to the biological clock and the career clock.
Yeah.
Being in clash with each other. But in fact, women do depend upon a good support system and encouraging. In fact, it is happening at home. In fact, these days, when educated families are not distinguishing between, supporting the girl child and the male child. So the education aspect has been solved to great extent, but the family aspect still needs some kind of help with respect to promoting the women qualities to the extent. Amrita, what is your take on this?
Yeah, my experience of having women work in Dayal is that I don't know whether it's a social issue or it's a conditioning that women go through, but they're a lot less assertive. They would do all the work, but they would never come up in the front and share that they're doing all the work. So I have many women colleagues who would take a step back because they're unsure of themselves. And I think as a corporate, as an industry, we have to do a little more to give them that space, give them that little push so that they can come in the front and speak about their achievements. So we are trying that in Dayal also, where what we are seeing is that, like you said, women would join, then they would take a break for the family, and then they would find it really hard to come back. And even when they do, their productivity is suffering because they don't have that kind of support at home. So we've seen women join and then leave. So up till mid-management, we would have women, but beyond that, it's just very, very underrepresented. So as a corporate, what can we do to provide that kind of supportive environment even at workplace for them to come back? Whether there are some trainings that we can do for them to feel like, whatever they've missed, they can get back on track with that. So that is the viewpoint that we've also experienced in Dayal. And now we're actively trying to work and find women in senior positions, because also seeing women in senior positions enables other women to feel like, okay, there is a career path for me. I don't have to stop after I have a family. So we're working on it. We're really struggling with it, especially because we're a little farther away from the big cities. But we've been on it for a while, and we continue to do it. So hopefully in the coming future, and looking at the representation of women in this room, I'm confident that things should change.
Yeah, I think that company policies need to be bent and adapted to suit women, and that would be equitable. We recently hired BioSys recently hired a new HR head, and she's a lady. And when we interviewed her, she asked to work from home, which for an HR person is, they need to be kind of there in the office. But we said, okay, that's fine. And because she has a small child and, she had to kind of deal, and obviously her husband also was working. So that is the kind of adapting that corporates need to do to let women in leadership positions be able to remain there. And you know what, ironically, she doesn't work from home at all. She manages everything. I know she has her video on, which she's seeing her kid at home. The CCTV is constantly on. I can hear her child because she sits next to me. But this is what we need to do. This is how we need to embrace it, rather than expect the women to fit into the men's shoes in the way they work.
So that in fact is great. In fact, technologies may help women in future. On a lighter note, I was in fact working with an NGO head called as Ameo Joshi, and I was asking him about, because he has worked in about 192 villages, and I asked him about the women participation and how really they are, influencing the entrepreneurs and all. So he had one thing to say, that if you bring women together, an enterprise happens, but if you bring men together, there's a power game and politics happens. So that is a thing which really stayed with me. Not to blame you men, but then that is the reality with which we have to do that. And with respect to women, really one aspect of because she's getting some option and she's getting an opportunity, so she wants to make the best out of it. And that is what really I have seen also at Biosys, wherein if we really believe in their abilities and make them believe in their abilities, that is the first step to make women, come into workforce to the extent. So we are all working in the biospace. In fact, I really believe, and I mentioned it earlier, that we do a lot of nurturing with respect to soil health and food safety, what we cook at home. We always feed good things to our children. So, do you feel that the bio market should be addressed in a different manner vis-a-vis the chemical market when it comes to taking the products to the farmers? Because I often see that when we have a distributor kind of gathering, I see that only men are there, and the routine things which really happen in the distributor gatherings, they do happen. So I tried to change it to some extent, wherein I asked their women folk also to participate, and I was amazed at the kind of questions they asked, and I was really very happy. And so I really feel that the bio market should it be addressed in a different manner, wherein if there are so many women farmers who are farming their soils. So do you feel that the network which is used to take the inputs to the farmers, there should be some kind of women participation in that too?
Of course, there should be women participation in everything. Only then it's genuinely a productive conversation. Um, but I think the biostimulant space that we exist in is something that requires a lot of training, education, and we need to really spread the knowledge about the use of biostimulants to farmers. And I know it's an uphill task. It has been an uphill task for us for the last 20 years to convince all kinds of farmers, male, female, that why biostimulants are so important for soil health and for the longevity of the plant, the strength, the immunity, to build the immunity of the plant. The example is like having Chawanprash, for human beings. Like, it's not a crocin that will alleviate the headache immediately, and you're not going to see the benefits right away. But you still want to build your immunity over a period of time. That is how I equate biostimulants as. So I think women will be more sensitive to the use of biostimulants because of the end result, and the quality of food that we feed our children is very important to us. However, there's still very, very little knowledge of these things in the rural space. So a lot of effort is needed by companies like ours to involve people, to educate them, to bring them together and teach them about it.
Very true. Amrita, do you have any take on this?
Yeah, I think our experience has been that while the purchase decision of the agri-inputs may not be in the hands of the women today, they're still concerned with the way their family is. So a farmer's family that is involved in the cultivation process, how are they handling chemicals, what is the impact of those on their families, all of that would concern a woman. So I'm very it's a very interesting idea that you said that you called women to a farmers training program and got them to participate in it. So I think that can be a very interesting way to get the message across. Another thing from the biostimulant angle per se, again agnostic to the gender, is that the way it is marketed right now is I think there needs to be a little more change to it. We have to look at the pricing part of it, especially where a farmer's affordability, when they look at a chemical solution with a knockdown effect versus a biostimulant or a biofertilizer or a biopesticide, is different. So as an industry, what can we do to make that at par so it's easier for the farmer to adopt? Because at the end of the day, they're looking at their yield and their return. Besides that, I think with the regulations coming in, it's going to be easier for the farmers to adopt higher quality products. So higher quality biostimulants, and not the thousands of smaller players that are just making granules out of mud and selling it. So that will also really help establish this industry. Another thing on the what women can do in the biological space is create awareness on the consumer side, which Aiman was also sharing, that at the end of the day, if we are the ones making the decisions on what to put in our bodies and the family, so then we can be an influencer in what I want to purchase, how that food was grown, how it was cultivated. So working on the demand side will automatically have the ripple effect on the supply side and should increase, ideally, the adoption of biologicals.
Very true. So when it comes to biologicals, we often hear that, okay, people come to the bio kind of exhibitions, or you can say the seminars, to learn about new things, because that is a space wherein the innovation is happening. If you see the biostimulant space, there are many products which are launched. Forget about it whether they are good or bad, but a number of products, people who want to take these products to the farmers, that itself is a kind of innovation wherein they are thinking how best I can help the farmer to improve his yields or improve his profitability to a great extent. So on this aspect of fertilizers, not much is happening with respect to the innovation. We see some aspect of nano urea being launched, or nano DAP being launched, or neem coated urea being launched, but apart from that, there are some soluble aspects which are coming into the picture, some micronutrient aspects, but not much innovation is happening. The same is the case with the pesticide sector also, that now people are realizing that, okay, you need an integrated approach to reduce some kind of toxins, but then the aspect of reaching the farmers, if we see the chemical industry and the bio industry, right now they are not joining hands to a great extent, because it is very difficult for a person in chemistry to really teach take the inputs to the farmers, as I was mentioning, that okay, it has to either or effect, which is there in the system right now, that bios cannot solve each and every aspect of the problems or the issues which are there. So how do you feel that the bio market needs to be addressed? I'm not asking this with respect to the women, but in general as such, because we see that if the bio market right now is positioned at around maximum around 2,500 or 3,000 crores, still we feel the need to grow. Even if the CAGR is there, the modalities or the method in which the bio market should grow, that needs to be accelerated. And do you have any take on this?
Yeah. So most companies, agri-input companies, have a biological range of products, and then they have their chemical range of products. And the sales team is the same sales team has to sell both, right? So when they go and speak to their customers or the distributors, the easier thing to sell is the chemistry, the chemicals, right? The pesticides, and that's also what the distributor is demanding, because he needs to keep that on his shelf. Otherwise, nobody's going to come to his store. So it's easy to sell chemicals. It's harder to sell biostimulants. So unless the entire sales team is focused on biologicals and they're getting their incentives from biologicals and everything is kind of geared towards them selling the biologicals, only then that you will see that change that you're talking about. So in my company in Ingene, our maximum focus is on biologicals, and we sell our chemistries just to support that sale. So they are more locomotive kind of, because the distributor asks for it and it's for us to get a foot in the door. But our entire focus is biologicals, and very few companies in our industry are focused on biologicals. So unless you completely drop, your complete focus on pesticides and only do bio, then you're not going to see this change. And it can happen. If companies set up a separate sales team that is separate from their pesticide team, then you might see this happen.
I deliberately asked this question because after this we are going to have an interactive section wherein we would like to have some questions from the audience. Yesterday, because of the constraint of time, we could not take any questions. But today, in fact, let us make this session lively by getting some questions on the floor. Amrita, what would be your take on this with respect to the biologicals reaching the market?
So yes, we'll have to incentivize the team. That's the only way we're able to also similarly push out the products. What we also do is the marketing focus in terms of the number of demonstrations we would be putting on our bio products are generally, when we look statistically, are higher than the ones that we're putting on chemical. Like she said, chemical products are already demanded by the farmer, so there's not much. However, what we also do is that when we do our demonstrations, we don't just bring in our farmers to the fields. We make sure that we bring in the channel partner there, because unless they're demanding, they're not going to push it to the farmers. Another way we do is this, in addition to incentivizing our sales team, we also incentivize our channel. The margins they would get on a biological product, for example, a mycorrhiza in our organization, is higher than they would get on a micronutrient. So that is what we do. And we also focus on the INM IPM approach. Like, those are words that are constantly uttered in our marketing rooms, in our training sessions. So the sales team is already always thinking of that. So when they also go back to the field and talk to the farmers, they are using those conversations that they've had in the corporate offices to convince the farmers to use both kind of products.
Absolutely. You mentioned the thing about incentivization and value. Many of these days, I believe that the biologicals are not priced well. because if you really have to get the biologicals to the market in the sense, and you have to satisfy the channel, because unless you satisfy the channel, you're not going to get a repeat order with respect to the even though the quality or the value which is being given to the farmer is good. So value pricing in biologicals is not happening to the extent it should happen. That is what I believe, because right now there is no economy of scale which is there in biologicals. So they mostly are sold on the basis of the production cost and not on the value which is given to the farmer. So right now when you take the demos, the rate at which the fertilizer replacement happens, or the rate at which the one of the two sprays of pesticides are reduced, and that kind of reduction in cost, or that kind of increase in the yield the farmer is getting with respect to the value of the biologicals which the biologicals are being used for, if that is not done, then the value pricing is not being done. That is what is not justifying the biological entry to the extent which is happening in the market. Do you feel so?
Yeah, there's a lot of legwork that is needed to sell biologicals. The demos, the discussions, we need to show the profitability to the farmer. We actually write it down and show it to them that this is how much you can gain from spending this money. So that amount of legwork is not needed for selling the chemicals. So yes, that is probably the reason why there's so much work that is needed to sell biostimulants.
True. Amrita?
So even when we introduce a new product, I think we do that analysis at our end, where we look at the amount of return that the farmer will make should they replace a part of the chemical input with the bio input. So when we go with that thought, then we're able to price our products accordingly and then show the subsequent return to the farmer.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Now we, in fact, open for questions, and I would request Vipin ji to arrange for some mics if the people need it, or they can be loud enough for the gathering to hear their voice. Thanks. Please introduce yourself so that the question will be done.
I'm Malvinder Singh Malli. I'm a Global Farmer Network member. Actually, in Punjab, we have started self-help group for women. I think it's a wonderful idea to promote bioproduct through lady farmers. We have already started. Actually, now many people's working on that. So we requested what is the best method to add more women in the group for that, because still women are now started their own business also, some self-help group also, some they are making their pickles, they are making other things with KVK and others. So just what sort of activities you are doing in other states, or how you are promoting the bioproduct to women, and that because women they are more on safety on pesticide poisoning and other things. So my question is that how you are doing that?
I think when women become the decision makers for purchasing the inputs, that is when we can actually start speaking to them about bio. Until the farmer, the male farmer is making those decisions as purchase decisions, I don't think. There's also a question of women farmers, as you said, the ability in the East to purchase land. So if the land is hers, then the decisions will be hers. And also, like a lot of women whose fathers pass away or husbands pass away, their claim to or their right to the land that they are owed, generally they don't speak up. As you said, women don't speak up and they don't fight for their rights. So I think there's a whole sort of external support that needs to be given to women for us to reach this point of saying, we're going to go to the women and sell our biostimulants.
Just one example also I'll share of what we did. Aapne KVK ki baat kari, so that reminded me that in Sultanpur in UP, we partnered with a KVK to do a meeting where the women farmers that were using biological products and other products to do good cultivation were celebrated in public. So public recognition really helped us, promote the role that they were playing in farming and making the right choices. So like Aiman was also saying, we have to push them. So we also have to show that, okay, there are people who are doing great things and you can be one of them too. And there were other women farmers in participation. So we're hoping that these kind of initiatives, when we take at a ground level, will also push women farmers up.
Is there any biological certification authority in India that make the confidence of the farmer that it is certified quality?
Yeah, I would take that question. So basically, right now, the good thing which has happened in the market is that biologicals are being registered now. Earlier on, they were not registered. So there is some kind of methodology which is required, or some kind of small entry barrier. Any person having, say, 2 rooms cannot set up a biofertilizer or biopesticide plant now, because he has to undergo rigorous registration procedures. So that is one aspect. And there are also some inputs which are registered for certified for organic farming. So that doesn't mean biologicals are only used for organic farming. They can be used for conventional farming also. So that is a kind of a confusion is created in the market. So it's the government aspect is being done. And in fact, I would like to mention here that we are at BASAI, we are trying to work on this aspect of certification aspect also. So in the years to come, we may be launching some kind of activity with this regard. Yes, Nidhi?
My question is addressed to you all three of you as experienced women in this field and my seniors. How do you think the landscape of agriculture has changed for the women since you guys started? And what advice would you have for a newbie like me?
Aiman, you will take that?
Okay, sure. I don't know how old you are, you're too young. Okay, you're 22? Wow, that's young. So, in your 20s, I don't know, when I was in my 20s, we have confidence issues. We're not sure whether the decisions we're making are right decisions. We don't know if we're being accepted the way we want to be accepted. So the advice I definitely give is you just need to be at it and continue to speak up, continue to make your voice heard. That is the most important thing, because if you shut down when you're surrounded by men, and it always is like that, right? You're in a room alone and everyone else is a man. And many times they try to speak over you and they try to crush your voice. So don't allow your voice to be crushed. You've got to keep going. And as you get older, you begin to not care and you become more confident. The confidence comes. So,
Just one more thing that I'll add is you will have to work a lot harder to prove yourself than your male counterparts. You will have to go to the field and show your face on the field and stick it all over your office to remind people that, oh yeah, I also went and met a farmer. I'm not just a lady sitting in an office behind a laptop. You will have to, whatever you do, please make sure you talk about it or you show it. And as a person who's working with her father, you'll have to step out of that shadow at some point in time, which I'm also still learning to do. Even at conferences, I'm always with the chairman, my father. So, you'll have to create a place for yourself. But I think at 22, you just, you work at it. You just go for it and just work slightly harder than the male counterparts.
I'll just add to that. At 22, you feel you can change the world. Just keep that spirit alive.
You must go to the farmers also.
Yes, that is
Farmer
right.
is very important.
Yeah. Any more questions? Ravi, I would like you to ask a question because you have worked so hard in regulatory space and everything. Do you have any question for us?
Not a question though, but I guess
Okay.
the cost that you have talked about pushing the biological market is quite hard compared to the conventional one. Probably with the world moving towards more sustainable thing, I would think that would change. But how do you perceive the role of non-genuine biologicals in the market space? So which is probably more an incentive to the retailers in terms of selling. Is it also creating the same kind of disturbance in the market to push the genuine markets? And how would industry like yourself, I guess, all the time we tend to blame the government, but how as industry are we working towards it?
I think firstly the fact that now we have to be registered under the FCO, and this BASAI, this association has been formed. The genuine biostimulants and bioproducts are getting recognized, and it is very hard now to place something that doesn't have this registration on the shelves of the dealers. They have to hide it and sell it. So there's a barrier now. They were selling it openly before, now they cannot sell it openly. So I think that restriction will definitely help the genuine biologicals that are properly registered under the FCO, because it's expensive to register, number one. Number two, all the paperwork and everything that is required. A small player, local player that is probably giving much larger margins to the channel partners, they'll not be able to survive it. And now you have the larger MNCs getting into the biospace. So the kind of bucks that are going to be spent on selling biostimulants now it's at another level.
Absolutely, and one I feel okay. We can take the questions, and maybe I can address this for later.
I did my master's in from Aiman in Director-Ingene. I am in the agrochemical industry for last 25 years. Now heading a GMP lab for Director-Dayal. Just to link to his question, my question to our panelists that what is the actual biostimulant? Have you defined any where it is? Because the same component, same biological mixture. It has some amino acids, it has some sulfated polysaccharides, it has some different components, some elements, some other things. If I mix it separately and produce the same thing, instead of getting it from the plant source, it is differentiated in our system or law, because there are the source is not properly defined. What is the biostimulation?
So I think I can take this. Yeah. So basically, yesterday we had a very nice talk with
One chemical person who had explained about the European kind of guidelines. Yes. So the biostimulants are being defined properly by the government also, and there are quite a lot of patents which can come out of it in the real sense, which I feel. So biostimulants, in fact, they are confusing earlier, but not to the extent they are confusing when the government has tried to lay out some guidelines. That is what I believe. If I can answer the question right now.
Mr. P.K. Singh also mentioned yesterday.
Yes.
The same ascobyllum, which is coming from Arabian Sea, is different from the.
Absolutely, but then the value which is given to the farmer, that is what is being looked at, not only the containers. Yes, so each industry has its own kind of metal to standardize its product based on the guidelines which are necessary. I'm sorry, Vipin is trying to say one question last and we'll stop.
This lady has a question.
and I have a lesser opportunity to directly venture except to the pharmacy schools where I have been advocating for the safety, etc. as came here, like So one question which you people have said, my maybe mission may not be equating to it. Like I'm looking at the other aspect about the cost. Since you said that cost, because what I have the notion that maybe more of these biologicals or the quantity is required than compared to the chemicals or whatever, they are strong chemicals, so less quantity, more space period required. So shouldn't that be considered as an aspect that you keep buying repeatedly or they're not laced or like at the retailer's place? All these aspects should be definitely when you are advocating.
So biologicals definitely have to go a long way with respect to standardization, but a journey has begun. And this aspect of lacing and all, definitely there were problems earlier. But now that the rigorous techniques of residue monitoring are being advocated, biologicals also can be tested for the residues. It is not very difficult to really find out whether it is laced with a chemical or not. I'll take the last question and then we'll stop.
Just wanted to know what is the percentage of women participation in agriculture colleges admission. The talent comes from an agriculture college, and I see that the percentage of women in agriculture college or going through the rigorous course of agriculture per se is very less. So in my batch in Pantnagar, it was out of 72 students, there were only 5. So how can we expect that the talented women folk can come to the level of managing director if they are not exposed to the rigorous course of agriculture per se?
If I can,
our PAU was 50-60% are girls now in BS agriculture.
Probably when I was studying in college, it was Yes, 80 girls.
I believe
it's just the generation gap now growing up because the newer generation saying that they're quite a bit. Okay.
That participation should be. Then there is a gap. Then the industry is not picking up that talent.
Yeah,
Really
that is.
Thank you very much.
Message from Dr. Renuka Diwan Karandikar, who is not here. She's the CEO of Bioprime. Driving force in agriculture since a long time. However, it is time we make their presence felt, our voices heard, and that will only happen and help our fellow women to become leaders. Technology is a means to achieve that. Today, technology is changing the game in agri, and if we want opportunity. So this is the message from Dr. Diwan. Angel has not been there, so all of you, and thank you all for a wonderful participation and interactive session. I believe that questions, but Vipin is bent on following the schedule. So thank you.
First, I'd like to thank all the panelists for a lovely and a very question answer, which we missed out yesterday, unfortunately. My apologies for that due to we have another list of panelists coming across later on. I believe in the women's leadership field, we read a couple of board members in BASAI, ma'am, and announced that BASAI has chosen to form a women's wing within BASAI to connect all women entrepreneurs of agri-input companies from biological seeds, pesticides and farming, etc. And we shall be officially launching it on the Women's Day, that is on March 8th. So thank you, ma'am, for all this thing.
Thank you.
And before we call it a day for the panel, may I request you to hand over a souvenir to the guests. First of all, to Aiman Khorakiwala.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Amrita Kumar. May I request Dr. Srita Balla if she could grace the stage and hand over a souvenir to Madam Kanitkar, please. वो आपको दे दूंगा, आपको नहीं मिलेगा.
Thank you.